I don't know if you have a well-developed scheme in your mind as to how you're going to engage with people. I hope you do. But one of the things we can recognize is as you interact with those in front of you, you can be a congenial person or you can be an adversarial person. Which do you choose to be? You know, when we talk about being congenial, we're talking about having a sense of pleasantness or being engaging or friendly or sociable, encouraging, interested in others, and having a certain curiosity, a cooperation, things like that. And I'm hoping that's a type of characteristic with all those subcategories that you lead with. Now, there are plenty of people, though, that they go straight to the adversarial mode of thinking when they engage with you. They can just approach relationships with a jaded attitude. They can be critical, bossy, inconsiderate, dismissive, unpleasant, surly, defensive, rude, contrarian, blaming, accusing. Now, obviously, when we think about individuals who have a strong narcissistic bent, unfortunately, it's the adversarial style that they can go with. Now, many of them can begin interactions, whether it's inside family or friendships or work or organizations, they can begin with that congenial style of engagement. But when strain or tension or conflict or differentness shows up, then there's a real high likelihood they're going to treat you in that adversarial kind of way. And it's more than just adversarial. In their mind, you are the enemy. You are the one that's making their life miserable. And so they will put the relationship into a win-lose kind of paradigm. And there are all sorts of cues that I want you to see if you can watch for that indicate that you're in this adversarial enemy style of engagement with that narcissistic individual, keeping in mind they have a high need for control and a real strong attitude of entitlement, low empathy, things of that nature. That's what constitutes narcissism. For example, some of the cues that imply that you're in that enemy style of interaction with a narcissist is you realize that other person is going to label you as being difficult anytime and every time a differentness comes along. You may worry about saying the wrong thing. Well, am I going to get on their bad side? It may be that you know that you are going to be accused of using the wrong tone of voice or having bad timing in the way that you engage with them because everything is made as a judgment. And look what you're doing to me now. It could be that in your mind, you just walk away constantly thinking it's impossible to reason with you. That's a cue that you can have. And it may be that sometimes you feel like you're constantly misinterpreted by that person. No, that's not what I meant. And yet they're constantly interpreting you in very wrong ways, of course, to make themselves look like the winner. Many times I'm sure that you feel like you've been blamed for problems that are not yours to be blamed for. It could be that you have learned about lies that the narcissist gives because they're trying to craft their image and truth is expedient. Sometimes it may be that you tell lies just so that you won't get on the narcissist's bad side, or at least you won't tell the truth in a very full way. Many times you have the notion that says, well, my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas are going to be summarily dismissed anyway. And as a result, arguments can arise, and sometimes they can arise over trivial kinds of issues. That's what I'm talking about when I say that you can actually have this interaction style with that narcissist where you're the enemy and the narcissist feels that it's their job to vanquish you and make sure that you lose, they win, and it's very much a competition. Now, I think a very interesting question is, why do narcissists need to have you as an enemy? I go back to my opening statements. We can be collegial. We can be congenial with one another. And when differences come along, it's like, well, that's not a shocker. But narcissists can't do that. The adversarial style of interaction is their norm. They're repeating with you what was done to them all through their lives. They naturally can cite all sorts of primary, if they had insight at all, primary relationships that had conflict. They don't know how to conduct authentic relationships. When I say authentic, what I mean is you get to be you, I get to be me, and there's a sense of genuineness, there's a sense of openness and no pretense. It's like that's not in their vocabulary because way back through their early developmental years, they ain't figured out there's a pecking order in life. And somehow or another, they've got to be on the high end. Now, some of them were on the receiving end of a lot of criticism, so they decided to keep their false self or their false front up to fend off the false criticisms there. Some of them were the golden child, and so they just began thinking, well, I'm always got to be the winner because look how wonderful and terrific I am, and they've been trained to think that way. Either way you look at it, they have a long-standing history of feeling like they've got to be on the high end, and any sense that says that they have lost or they have messed up or made mistakes is terrible to them. They can't deal with it. Narcissists live in a world of shame. Narcissists live in a world of criticism. Narcissists live in a world where emotions are not resolved well. Narcissists live in a world of judgment and conditional acceptance, if acceptance is going to be given at all. Narcissists live in a world where flaws are deemed as disastrous or catastrophes. Narcissists live in a world where the ones who have the most toys wins. Narcissists live in a world of the haves versus the have-nots. Narcissists live in a world where anger is very constant and steady. Narcissists live in a world of constant victimization. Narcissists live in a world of black and white thinking. That's how they've learned to process life, and as a result, they're thinking somehow or another in all this equation with all those things that I have in front of me, I have to win. I have to come out on the good side. And so they must see you as the enemy. More specifically, they must see you as the enemy that they can then conquer so that they can elevate themselves at your expense. I want you to just slow down and ponder the meaning of that. A person has such a disintegrated understanding of life so that the only way they're really going to feel significant is to elevate themselves at your expense. And that implies a person that has a very empty soul and a very empty way of life. So knowing this, there are some truths that I want you to anchor down on it. And the first is just try to remind yourself that when all of this adversarial stuff comes along and you may be arguing and they're coming at you and you think, wait a minute, it's happening, I see it. Understand that you are simply a player on their stage. And it's the narcissist that's writing the script, and you're not required to receive that script as being your own. This narcissistic individual is going to be adversarial no matter who they're in front of. You just happen to be the person that's there in front of you. And so in addition to that, your efforts to make the narcissist see the light and write a whole new script are probably going to fail, actually pretty close to every single time. That being the case, when the narcissist wants to engage with you in that adversarial enemy style, you have the task in your mind to think very differently as you approach and as you interact with that person. And I'm hoping that you can live a good life that's anchored in a non-destructive, a non-conquering style, but one where your own sense of self-respect leads the way, your own sense of dignity and civility lead the way. That being the case, you're going to have a good life that has no need to other the other individual, but you want to include instead. Your good life has no need to destroy other people. You want to build up instead. In your good life, you feel no need to shame, but you want to look for reasons to be affirming and uplifting toward individuals. In your good life, you have no need to cram others into a mold. You can allow others the freedom to think and choose and be who they are. In your good life, you have no need to chronically come up against other individuals, but instead you can learn to come together where possible. In your good life, there's no need to ridicule, but you can encourage. Now, you see, as I give you this dichotomy, the person who has that adversarial style, the person that has the congenial style, you can see that these are two very distinct approaches toward life. And it's interesting, in some of the comments I get, there are some folks that will say, well, you just need to overpower them before they overpower you. To me, all that says is you're playing the game. And it's actually hypocrisy to say, yeah, I'll get in there and play your game. Because just as you're complaining about the way they treat you, then you turn around and do the very same thing. I'm not going to do it. When you are designated as the enemy, you can lay down your adversarial approach. And you can recognize that's your game. You have a need to do that. But I want to live a life that's anchored in dignity and respect. And when the narcissist refuses to follow, then I'm going to stay the course. Let me repeat that. When the narcissist refuses to follow, I'm going to stay the course. I don't feel the need to be that smash mouth person. I want to be a person that stands for decency. By the way, you notice Gus there behind me? He's had a couple of enemies with a couple of dogs in the neighborhood lately, and so I'm going to have to go over these notes. We're working on it because I don't want him to have too many enemies. Gus and I, we have a good bond, and I'm going to go over my notes with him. Some of you have been asking, where's Gus? He's here. Sometimes he's just slacking. Okay. I'm glad that you're here with me. I take it seriously that you allow me to be a part of your personal growth. I really do, and I'm thankful that you allow us to come along with you. If you've not yet subscribed, I would invite you to go below the video and hit the subscribe button. You'll also notice that we have a new website, survivingnarcissism.tv, and you can sign up on our email list. Go down to the front page, and it's about 2/3 of the way down the page, and you can sign up for our email list. Gus is getting a little itchy there. If you have a need to unravel some of this stuff with an online counselor, and online is where it's at these days, we vetted a group, and there's a link below that you can make yourself available to that, and I've gotten good feedback from people who have done that. In addition, we have my online video workshops. We have my books, especially When Pleasing You is Killing Me and The Anger Trap, and then we also have coffee mugs. So check out the links below. Now, just know that being adversarial, being the enemy, that's the narcissist game. Being decent, being congenial, being collegial, I hope that's what you and I can stand for. And like I say, if the narcissist can't go there with you, you proceed and live a healthy life as you choose. I wish for you steadiness. I wish for you firm resolve. I wish for you peace.